Hello out there, this is Wake Angel 2001. Before I get into anything, I want to remind you to vote in the poll for the top custom of 2018. It's been up for a few days so far, and there's only around 50 or so votes in. Given how many subscribers I have, those numbers should be way higher. So, like, if you're looking at me on your cell phone and it's not compatible with that polling website, get yourself to a computer or something and actually go to the site and vote. Because I really would like this to be decided by a significant portion of my viewing audience, and not just like the 100 people who can be who actually bother. Like come on, there's 13,000 of you. Even if a proportion of that are inactive accounts, there should still be a lot of people. So yeah, come on, let's do this. Let's vote. Go vote. It's easy. It'll take you like 2 seconds. Just do it. Do it. Alright, now, what this video is actually about is my impressions of the design for Sonic the Hedgehog in the upcoming live-action Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Now, when it was revealed, the internet freaking exploded. I don't think I've seen so many negative comments about something, and I knew this was going to happen as soon as they announced that it was a live-action movie. Even I was saying it was complete and utter folly to try making a live-action Sonic the Hedgehog movie. This is because Sonic is a cartoon. He was designed as a cartoon and has always been a cartoon. To actually try and make him look like a realistic animal that could interact with living human beings as opposed to cartoon people was complete and utter tone deafness. Like, imagine if it actually did just look like Sonic the Hedgehog from the Wreck-It Ralph movie. I mean, sure, Sonic would have looked great. Sonic looked great in Wreck-It Ralph. Put him next to a living human being. It would look like they're just doing a CGI remake of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And, I have a bit of a sore throat, so I'm going to be sipping. Because Sonic is a cartoon character. And he looks like a cartoon character. And he would look unnatural and out of place standing next to actual people because he's a cartoon character. Okay, so... But of course, the whole taking a cartoon and doing a live-action movie of it thing is a fad, despite the fact that like, I would say a solid 80 to 90% of the time you get negative... it's very negatively received by all except really young audiences that are too young to discriminate what's good and what's bad, or absolute nostalgia baiters, like who are just really happy to see anything related to what they like. But the thing is, Sonic the Hedgehog doesn't really fit into either of those categories. I mean, maybe you can get the really young demographic, but he's been around since the early 90s, and has been really famous since the mid-90s or so. But I don't think that that's... It's a little... Sonic the Hedgehog as a franchise is, what, 27 years old now? That is an adult lifespan, but, like, I don't know, like, I think if the franchise is less than 30 years old, then you can't really pull at those nostalgia strings quite as hard. Like, it's not Smurfs or the Transformers. Like, the nostalgia crowd isn't that high up yet. I mean, maybe if this was classic Sonic and not some weird version of modern Sonic, maybe you get like I was 6 years old when Sonic the Hedgehog first came out. I think I represent a pretty typical age for a Sonic the Hedgehog G1er, because I was the target demographic. So people my age, give or take more or less 5 years or so, because like in 1991 there weren't a lot of 20-somethings who played video games. Video games were still largely seen as kids things back in 1991. So like I'm guessing the older Sonic fans are probably close to my age. I doubt that there's many truly dedicated G1er Sonic fans that are more than 10 years older than me, is what I'm going to get at. But yeah. Would you believe the biggest problem I had with this look was the shoes, because they gave him shoelaces. Like, Sonic has never had shoelaces. His shoes are held closed by buckles. This actually ties into his power because he's a speedster. He runs really fast. If you're moving your feet back and forth really fast and you have shoelaces that are tied closed, those bows are going to go knocking around with the speed and they're going to undo themselves and you're going to trip on them. That's why Sonic has buckles instead of shoelaces. I mean, do you not know how shoes work? I know. That's a really stupid thing to get hung up on, but yeah. If you want to know what part of the new design really made me the angriest, that was it. The shoelaces. Sonic doesn't have shoelaces. And I just don't like shoelaces. I wish that we would move on to better shoe fastening technology. I've seen it happening. I've seen better shoe fastening technology, but people have yet to embrace it. Still some kind of weird stigma, like if your shoes don't have laces, people assume it's because you don't know how to tie laces, and that must be because you're retarded. So you're like wearing superior shoe fastening technology leads people to think that you're mentally handicapped. So like we need to get past that as a society and embrace superior shoe fastening technology if we're ever gonna move forward. Because we're dragging our heroes down now, man. We're dragging our heroes down. Okay, so you know what? Remember a couple years ago when they released that Monster Trucks movie? You know, the one where you had, like, trucks with, like, some squid-like creature living inside of it, turning the wheel, literally a monster truck, starring the guy who plays MacGyver on the new MacGyver series. I don't know the actor's actual name. I remember that movie ended up getting delayed in its release. I think almost by 2 years, because when they did an initial test screening, the original design for Creech, the monster that crawled into the truck, was too scary looking, and it scared the kids at the test screening. So they had to completely redo the visual effects for the entire movie, and that added 2 years to the production time. And from what I understand, after revealing this look for Sonic the Hedgehog, the makers of the movie are tweaking the design. I don't know if it's going to delay the movie. They're probably still going to try and shoot for... I mean, they promised November 8th, 2019, so they're probably still going to try and do it, but now they're probably going to have to spend a whole lot more money tweaking Sonic's design. You know what? Here's some advice. If you're going to make a live-action version of a beloved cartoon character, I think you should do a reveal of what the design would look like way before you started making the movie, before you did anything else. Like if the very concept of, we're going to make a live-action movie of this cartoon character comes up, show people what that will look like and gauge their reaction. Because then you don't have a nearly completed movie where you're suddenly scrambling to alter visual effects. You can do your tweaking of the visual effects to something that people will like first, then do the extremely expensive rigging and modeling and, you know, all the stuff that goes into making a movie. Alright, so I think this is as far as I can go sitting in my chair. Let's actually switch over to looking at some pictures, and I can give my opinions a little bit clearer that way.
Alright, let's talk about Sonic. This is what he looked like basically in Wreck-It Ralph, which is essentially what he looks like in the video games. Nothing wrong there. Now the thing is, the way that Sonic looks is pretty important to the fandom. I mean, remember when Sonic Boom came out and he had blue arms? Like Sega had to say over and over again that Sonic Boom was a spin-off franchise that was not replacing the proper universe just to keep the fans from, like, I don't know, going over to their offices and burning them to the ground or something. I don't know what would have happened if they would have tried to replace Sonic's look after all this time. It was not a good show. But yeah, like, we accepted this look only because we were promised that it was a spin-off franchise. And I did enjoy the Sonic Boom cartoon. It was great. But that's the thing. Like, if it wasn't a spin-off, then there would have been meltdowns. So let's get into how characters look, like, in their Hollywood movies as opposed to the original source material. Let's talk about things like the Chipmunks. Now, the Chipmunks, when they made the Chipmunks movie, they had to be textured and, with actual fur, real patterns. They actually look like animals that, just with some slight changes to their physical anatomy so that they can actually interact the way that the Chipmunks could. Now, I'm not going to say the Chipmunks movies were good, but this looks like the Chipmunks, really. The only major difference was that in the original cartoons, the Chipmunks were anthropomorphic characters that were about the size of human children. Making them actual chipmunks that are only a few inches tall seemed really weird for people like me who used to watch those old cartoons. I could say very similar things about the Smurfs movie. Again, I'm not talking about the actual contents of the movie itself. I'm only talking about the character designs, but the way that they looked in the live-action Smurf movie was actually quite good. It seemed like a nice, realistic render of what a Smurf would actually look like. Now, personally, I liked the animated Smurf movie a hell of a lot better. Smurfs: The Lost Village is actually a genuinely good cartoon movie. But that movie was a financial failure, although I blame franchise fatigue more than anything else. And of course, we've seen in the recent Bumblebee movie that they can actually make really good versions of the Transformers that can interact with the real world. I mean, this almost looks like they just jumped out of the Fall of Cybertron video game, and these still work and interact just fine with actual living human beings, proving that you can actually make Transformers that look like the original Transformers and not have to do piles of scrap metal that look like knives and stuff like they did in the previous 5. Seriously, the new Bumblebee movie looks great and is great. You should go see the new Bumblebee movie. Let me get down to the point that I was trying to make when I was talking about how it was a folly to try and make Sonic the Hedgehog live action. Do you remember this? This is the live action Woody Woodpecker movie. I don't remember if it came out late last year or early this year, but oh my god, did this look horrible. I mean, sure, that's a fairly decent rendering of Woody Woodpecker in 3D CGI. He looks like he has actual feathers and stuff. But that absolutely does not integrate with anything else in the world. Oh, by the way, this movie was released directly to Netflix and DVD, although it did receive a theatrical release in Brazil. Sorry, Brazil. So yeah, this Woody Woodpecker doesn't look a thing like any other animal featured in the movie. He is completely alien. He doesn't blend in with a single darn thing in that entire universe. And we're supposed to buy that he's just a woodpecker. Sure, he's a woodpecker with fingers who just kind of floats around like a genie, not having to flap his wings or anything. And there are other birds in the movie that are just birds. Similar to the Garfield movie, where Garfield is the only cartoon animal, where everything else is just regular animals. But at the very least, they tweaked Garfield's anatomy so he looked like an actual cat, and not just a standing, walking, cartoon character. This is horrible integration. This is just a cartoon character interacting with the real world, but everybody is still treating it like it's an actual animal, and it's jarring, and it does not work. So whenever you make a cartoon character that has to interact with real people, you've got to do something to make it look more like something that can actually exist. And so, finally, we come to this infamous poster. Now, I heard that the studio was going to do some tweaking to the character design, but this was what they presented and hoped the fans would like. Actually, there was another release, I think, again, this is from some kind of Brazilian trailer poster or something. But yeah, take a look at what Sonic looks like now. I mean, blue arms, yeah, I kind of tread dangerous ground just with that, folks. But, okay, I can get the broad impression that this is supposed to be a Sonic. I mean, he seems to be short. Remember, Sonic is supposedly only about 3.5 feet tall. And they did tweak his anatomy so that he looks more like a thing, like he has a longer torso. There's definite muscle definition in his arms and legs instead of them just being skinny sticks. He has his eyes aren't conjoined the way that the cartoon characters are. Okay, like, but the thing is, well, this doesn't look like Sonic. It just looks like some random anthropomorphized animal character. Like, Sonic has a very specific look, and, like, the design... They didn't even get the design of his shoes right. Like I said, they're not supposed to have laces. I'm never gonna let that go. So, yeah, they did kind of succeed in making Sonic look like an actual physical thing that can exist, but it no longer looks like Sonic. And you had to ask yourself, is it even possible to take something that looks as cartoony as Sonic and make him look convincingly like a thing that can interact with actual human beings? And I think that it's possible. I mean, have you seen the trailers for the new Detective Pikachu movie? They actually took Pokemon and found a way to render them to look like actual living animals that could, be in the world. I was actually really surprised that they made a live-action version of Pikachu and Jigglypuff and all the other Pokemon that actually, look like they exist. So, like, if they can do this for Pikachu and the others, then maybe they can do it for Sonic? Although, I guess we're going back to the whole Chipmunks thing, in that Pikachu doesn't really have that humanoid a physique. He actually is more like a gerbil or a guinea pig just stood up on its hind legs. Like he's still a quadruped creature that can just occasionally rear up for expressiveness. So Pikachu's anatomy isn't quite as humanoid looking as Sonic's, so maybe that's why it's a little easier to actually render him as a realistic looking thing without sacrificing his look. Although I do recall a few years ago, Blue Core Studios, the people that make fan films, actually did give it a shot. They made a live-action Sonic fan film, which actually featured cameos from, like, the Nostalgia Critic and a few other internet celebrities, and it's hurt by the fact that it's, like, a really low-budget fan production that doesn't really have, like, a whole bunch of money to throw at a big CGI budget, but, they took a Sonic the Hedgehog body, proportionately sound, who looks like Sonic, and they gave him what they tried to make a more realistic texture so that he actually looked like a hedgehog with actual spines and fur and stuff, but, staying true to his overall anatomy. I don't know, like, if you could pump more money into the production to put Detective Pikachu-style textures on this body, would it look better than what they're coming up with for the live-action Sonic movie they're actually making? Frankly, I really don't know. I don't know anything about rendering actual movies. I don't know how to make movies. The only thing that I do know is how picky the fandom can be, especially the Sonic the Hedgehog fandom. So I have no idea, like, if they're going to tweak the design, and if you even can merely tweak that design, or if they're going to have to do a complete teardown. So only time will tell. Like, when the movie actually comes out, I'll give it a watch, and then we'll have a real discussion on this. Or maybe when they make a full trailer, I'll chime in then. But until then, we can only speculate. This is Wake Angel 2001, signing off, and have a Happy New Year.